From the All Indiana Podcast Network.
The All Indiana Podcast Network.
This is the News 8 Daily 8.
Now all the latest news.
Kylie Conway has all the news you need to know.
And more.
Please stand by.
Now, here's Wish TV's Kylie Conway.
Hi, this is Kylie Conway, and this is the News 8 Daily 8 for Tuesday, April 20th. My friend, meteorologist Marcus Bailey, joins me this morning because whenever I hear about snow in the forecast in spring, I want it to come from the expert.
Yeah, Kylie, a late blast of winter weather coming in for the season. Now, much of the late morning and early afternoon should be pretty quiet with mostly cloudy skies, but we do anticipate precipitation. First rain by mid to late afternoon. That will quickly change over to snow, and it could be heavy, wet snow by around dinner time, and that continues for the rest of the evening, winding down by the mid-overnight. Now, thanks to some warm ground temperatures, we're not going to have a lot of big problems on the roads overnight. This will melt on contact, but I do think we can get a slushy 1 to maybe 2 inches of accumulation on grassy areas and elevated surfaces through the overnight. Most of the snow will be gone, like I said, by your Wednesday morning. You'll also have to watch out for some pretty cold temperatures, a freeze warning in effect as temperatures dip into the upper 20s and low 30s for your Wednesday morning.
Big thank you to Marcus for that. And now we want to get to the latest on the FedEx mass shooting. Investigators are piecing together the months and hours leading up to the mass shooting. Authorities are releasing new information about the shooter's encounter with police last year. They're not yet offering, though, an answer about why Brandon Hull killed 8 people, then himself, late last week. Families still want answers about how it happened as they try to cope with the tragedy. Before we hear from the families themselves, we got word from FedEx on how it plans to operate in the coming days. Right now, FedEx says very limited operations are expected to resume later this week as authorities conclude their on-site investigation. So what about employees? FedEx says they're taking numerous steps to ensure that employees feel safe and prepared to return to work, but wouldn't disclose security procedures. The company says all employees are being paid their regular rate based on their previous average hours worked. This FedEx facility is the company's second busiest hub with nearly 4,000 workers. Another big question is the cell phone policy. It's come under scrutiny in the last several days. After the shooting, many families were waiting to hear from loved ones. They were upset that most employees aren't allowed to carry mobile devices inside the building, which made contacting them difficult. In a statement to News 8, FedEx said, our cell phone policy is based on workplace safety considerations, and we believe it continues to be in the best interests of our team members while they are on duty. We know that the shooter, Brandon Scott Hull, was a former employee of that FedEx facility, but the company wouldn't say how he was able to get inside the front doors of the building. And one man's family is keeping his memory alive by helping others. The family of Matthew Alexander created a baseball scholarship fund to continue his legacy. They also say that Matthew had just celebrated 10 years at FedEx. The company recently honored him with an award. Loved ones say he was a huge sports fan, specifically baseball. He loved the St. Louis Cardinals. His favorite all-time player was Ozzie Smith. Matthew played at Avon High School and graduated in 2007. Matthew's dad, Brad, can still remember the moment his son became hooked on the sport at just 2 years old. His mom, Debbie, says Matthew was also hardworking and humble. She says her heart goes out to the other families who lost someone.
We understand what you're going through, and it's grueling. It is the worst thing. As a parent, I would never have thought that our family would go through something like this, and to be burying our son at 32 years old.
Matthew's family says his workday was just starting when the shooting happened. He was 32 years old. The family just finalized his funeral plans. According to Baker Funeral Home, visitation will be Thursday and the funeral Friday. And this morning, we're learning about the life, laughs, and dreams of shooting victim Steve Weissert. From those who miss him, his wife is one of the people our crew first spoke with after the tragedy as she waited to find out if he was okay. His family says that Steve Weissert's constant sense of humor triggered his laugh that his family says they will miss hearing from the other side of the room. Steve was planning on retiring from FedEx in just 6 weeks to be able to enjoy retirement with his wife of almost 50 years. Steve was married to his college sweetheart, Carol. Steve and Carol met in college at the University of Minnesota. The two married in 1971 while Steve was in the Air Force. They went on to have 3 children. After the military, Steve worked as an engineer for decades, traveling all over the globe. His family says he had a lot of quirks. He often made up silly nicknames for everyone and everything. His love for learning meant he often would read textbooks and loved to watch the Science Channel. It's the little things like that his wife says she'll miss the most.
They say everybody has a number on their head, and was this the number that was supposed to come up? I mean, it's just we're trying to mentally, emotionally figure out what the purpose of this was.
Steve's family says they are shocked by the amount of support and attention this horrific situation has garnered and are still trying to move on from the unthinkable. And we're learning more about the weapons used by Brandon Hull during the shooting. Police say they recovered 2 rifles at the scene. One is a Ruger AR-556. Investigators say Hull bought it in September of last year. The other is an HM Defense HM15F that he purchased earlier in 2020 in July. IMPD says Hull bought both weapons legally. New details are surfacing about the weapon that was taken away from Hull more than a year ago. According to an IMPD report from March of 2020, Hull's mother and sister reached out to police after he bought a gun and started talking about suicide by cop. According to the report, officers visited the house and took him to a hospital for assessment. One officer wrote that he observed white supremacist websites on Hull's computer during that visit. IMPD seized a Mossberg 410 pump-action shotgun and notified criminal intelligence about the content on Hull's computer. According to the department, the shotgun is still in IMPD custody today. And the group Moms Demand Action is calling for stricter gun laws after the FedEx shooting. They say red flag laws work, but not in this case. The group says this mass shooting is a tragic, missed opportunity to utilize our state's red flag law, a failure of safety measures in place, but also highlights the need for stricter laws and more background checks.
A mass shooting, it grips the nation, but this is the 3rd one we've had in Indianapolis this year. In 2021, we have a daily gun violence problem that's going on in Indiana. We really need to work together to get something done here to stop people from dying from gun violence in our state.
Indiana's red flag law says that the police have a right to take someone's gun if they are an imminent threat to themselves or others, but it doesn't automatically stop them from buying another weapon. In this case, the shooter's family went to police to ask for help after he began talking about suicide by cop in March of 2020. His gun was removed, but the Marion County prosecutor says the man was no longer considered a threat and the office didn't file for a red flag hearing. Then he went on to buy the guns used in the FedEx shooting. Moms Demand Action says red flag laws work when used properly and are designed to prevent tragedies like this. They say in the 10 years after implementing Indiana's red flag law, our state's firearm suicide rate decreased by 7.5%. But the group also wants these laws to be stronger and is asking Indiana leaders to make background checks mandatory for all gun sales. Right now, they're required in stores, but not for private purchases in our state. Moms Demand Action has a website set up to help educate Hoosiers about gun laws here and across the country. We have a link to that website on wishtv.com. Just click on this story, and you can find it at the bottom of the page. And the Supreme Court will not take up 3 cases concerning the Second Amendment. The justices did not give any explanation for their decision to not hear the challenges. The cases were connected to the federal ban that's in place on firearm possession for someone with a felony conviction. The challengers argued that the Second Amendment does not allow the government to ban possession for those with nonviolent past convictions. The High Court last ruled on a major Second Amendment case more than a decade ago. Leaders of Central Indiana's Sikh community are calling for specific changes and forming a task force. 4 of the 8 people killed in that shooting were Sikh. The Sikh Political Action Committee says it wants to prevent similar violence in the future. The PAC is calling for pressure on elected officials to address mental health and gun control. The committee says it's fighting for all of the victims of the shooting. And the Political Action Committee says it made recommendations for added security measures before the shooting, but that no actions were taken. And this morning, America waits for a decision in the Derek Chauvin trial. The jury is deciding whether the former Minneapolis police officer is guilty of murdering George Floyd.
George Floyd.
All within a thorough, honest analysis. The state has failed to prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt. And therefore, Mr. Chauvin should be found not guilty of all counts.
Mr. Floyd died because his heart was too big. You heard that testimony.
And now, having seen all the evidence, having heard all the evidence, you know the truth. And the truth of the matter is that the reason George Floyd is dead is because Mr. Chauvin's heart was too small.
People are already gathering to demonstrate ahead of the verdict, including outside the courtroom last night. There's a large crowd that marched with signs calling for justice. The Biden administration is calling for calm as cities across the country prepare for intense reactions to a verdict.
Of course, our objective is to ensure there is space for peaceful protest. This country has gone through an extensive period, especially the Black community, of pain, trauma, and exhaustion.
The Associated Press reports that President Biden could address the nation after a decision comes down. The administration is also looking at sending specially trained community facilitators to areas likely to see unrest. And comments from California Congresswoman Maxine Waters could complicate the case. During weekend protests in Minnesota, she was asked what people should do if Chauvin is acquitted.
We got to stay on the street, and we've got to get more active. We've got to get more confrontational.
The judge overseeing the case says her comments could be grounds for the defense to appeal and even possibly overturn the trial. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is defending Waters. Pelosi says the lawmaker was talking about confrontation in terms of the civil rights movement and not in terms of violence. And this morning, the Johnson County Sheriff's Office is trying to determine what happened in the moments leading up to a 2-year-old boy being hit and killed. It happened just after 4:30 yesterday afternoon at Winterbrook Mobile Home Park. That's near County Road 400 West and County Line Road. Deputies say the driver was a 59-year-old man who works at the mobile home community. The man was driving a pickup truck owned by the mobile home park. The sheriff's office has not shared the names of anyone involved. And this morning, we learned that former Vice President Walter Mondale has died. Mondale's family says he died Monday in Minneapolis. Mondale served under President Jimmy Carter from 1977 to 1981. He ran for president in 1984 when he chose Geraldine Ferraro to be his running mate. That pick made for the first major party ticket to include a woman. On former President Carter's Facebook page, he wrote about Mondale. He was an invaluable partner and an able servant of the people of Minnesota, the United States, and the world. Mondale was 93 years old. The CDC confirms its review of Johnson & Johnson vaccine side effects now includes more reports than the 6 blood clot cases that prompted the probe. The director of the CDC says the agency is looking into a handful of reports of severe side effects. She's not saying what the side effects were or how many reports make up a handful.
We are working through and adjudicating them and verifying whether they do, in fact, reflect a true case. And that will be the work of the CDC this week, as well as the FDA.
The CDC plans to present its findings Friday to the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, which will then recommend whether to resume use of the J&J shot. And more Americans are rolling up their sleeves for the COVID-19 vaccine. The CDC shared a graph on its Twitter page. It shows that more than 132 million people have received at least one dose. And some 85 million people are now fully vaccinated. That's 8 million who got the J&J vaccine and 77 million who got 2-dose vaccines from Pfizer or Moderna. Dr. Anthony Fauci has this to say to anyone who may be hesitant to get the shot.
We leave it up to you. Look at the data. The data speak for themselves. We all want normalcy in America. The highway to that normalcy is vaccination.
All Americans age 16 and up are now eligible for the vaccine. And the CDC warns that cleaning surfaces doesn't help fight COVID-19 nearly as much as first thought, and in one way, maybe even negative. The agency cautions that frequent cleanings could lead to hygiene theater, where people have a false sense of security about being protected from the virus. The CDC says the risk of getting COVID-19 from touch is low, that compared to airborne transmission. Agency leaders say to keep wearing masks, maintain social distancing, and wash your hands frequently until the danger is past. And the State Department says it is not safe to travel to most other places in the world. The department's travel advisory system now shows warnings of do not travel or reconsider travel to 80% of other countries where coronavirus cases are rising sharply. Leaders say the changes are largely based on CDC travel health notices, which specifically track how well or poorly each country is doing in the fight against COVID-19. And the Green New Deal returns to Capitol Hill today. Senator Ed Markey and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez announced on Twitter they're reintroducing the bill. According to a release from Markey, the plan is a 10-year national effort to fight the multiple crises that are gripping our country. There's no word if the version will include any of the measures that were part of the 2019 version. The next guest host for Jeopardy will be Anderson Cooper. He'll serve as a celebrity fill-in for the next 2 weeks. Cooper has been a contestant on Celebrity Jeopardy several times in the past. The shows have been using celebrity to fill in as hosts following the death of Alex Trebek. And new evidence suggests that the Tyrannosaurus Rex was social, as dinosaurs go at least. The Utah Bureau of Land Management just announced the discovery of a mass extinction site of the dinosaur. The site is in the Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument in southern Utah. Scientists who studied the fossils there say there's evidence the dinosaur species exhibited pack-like behavior similar to wolves. Paleontologists have debated for years whether the T-Rex was solitary or lived in groups. And we're now getting a clear picture of the historic first helicopter flight on Mars. The rover Perseverance served as videographer early yesterday morning. We showed you the reaction from back on Earth on Wish TV and some choppy images that came in. We have all of that on wishtv.com now. But NASA says that Ingenuity went straight up for 10 feet, hovered for nearly 40 seconds, then touched down safely. The entire flight was controlled by onboard guidance, navigation, and controls. Total airtime was 39.1 seconds. Now to your business headlines. Indianapolis is the most affordable city for single buyers, with studios costing just $41,810 on average and one-bedroom homes averaging $201,856. Both represent the best cost per square foot, too. This is according to eachnight.com. It does say for single buyers, house prices across popular U.S. cities are steep and rising. They're growing at double the rate of U.S. salaries. Indianapolis ranks 14th for minority pay among American cities. The ranking was put together by Self.com. It says median earnings for full-time minority workers locally is $43,000. Minority population share is 29% in the city. Women can pay up to 8% more than men for car insurance, depending on their age and location. Researchers from the Zebra find in Indiana and Kentucky, women pay more than men despite having fewer accidents. 21 states charge women more for car insurance than men. Apple has its Spring Forward event today, and new products are expected. Most signs point to new iPads specifically, new iPad Pro models, and a refresh of the recently resuscitated iPad Mini. According to Bloomberg, the larger of the new iPad Pros will have a brighter, more technically advanced display, and both Pro models will have faster chips. Unisys says most business leaders, almost 2/3, expect a hybrid workforce to stay. Nearly 40% of business leaders cited difficulty effectively communicating with team members as the greatest challenge impacting employee productivity, while only 19% of employees thought this was problematic. Employees noted a three-way tie on the technology that would improve their working environment overall: collaboration tools, digital technology to work faster, and technical support when needed. This has been your News 8 Daily 8 for Wish TV. I'm Kylie Conway, online at wishtv.com, and follow us on Facebook when you search Wish TV.
Check out more podcasts from the All Indiana Podcast Network now at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.
allindianapodcastnetwork.com.